and certainly it has been a very busy 2 years. So as I look back on the last couple of years being here with Chief Poling, first of all, I've been proud to serve along Chief in this role as Commander and Command Chief. And some of the events that stick out to me are the successes maybe that we've had with the EFMP program, Exceptional Family Member Program. When we first came on board, we took a few town halls and we understood that there were some concerns amongst our Joint Base population that the EFMP program was less than adequate for their needs. So put together a rapid improvement event, and a lot of smart people got together and proposed a new way forward. And while it may not be perfect right now, I think it's a lot better than it was. And we had a grand opening of a new one-stop shop for EFMP over in the Med Clinic, and I think we're serving our customers' needs much better in that fashion. So that's one of the things that really sticks out to me, is taking care of the people, one of our cornerstones, and I think that's a great way that we did it. Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. The EFMP one-stop shop has definitely been a success for the base, and it's going to keep on getting better as we learn along the way what else we need to do for that program. But for me in particular, I think one of the biggest things is starting up the E9 Senior Enlisted Council. So that was the top senior enlisted from each of the services. So we get together just like the officers do on their Joint Partnership Council. So we do that on the enlisted side as well, so that we can make sure we're taking care of all the enlisted issues that are across the Joint Base, and not just focusing on the Air Force, which we don't do anyways, but this way I know that we are covering all the other services as well.
So for me, my command philosophy involves the four cornerstones that I've mentioned many times in previous commanders' calls and interviews and so forth, and those are combat readiness, customer service, caring for people, and community relations. And really I like to do things, my mantra is sort of accurate and fast, but I found on the Joint Base, we certainly like accurate, but the fast part is a little challenging sometimes, and it doesn't make anybody, it's not right or wrong that it's not as fast as I'd like it to be. It just is the way it is, because there's a lot of folks to coordinate with. So perhaps a slight change in my command philosophy has been that I can't accomplish things maybe as quickly as I would like to. I think we get to the right answer eventually, and we get there in a pretty timely manner, but sometimes things seem to take a little bit longer than normal on a Joint Base.
The adjustment I've had to make, making Chief, and I think the Colonel probably feels the same way, we get there to our level by taking care of the big A airmen. But coming to a Joint Base, we got to expand that scope. It's not only airmen, it's every single service that we got to take care of, whether it's the civilians on the Army side, the civilians on the Marine side, but the active duty, the officers, everybody. And then also the other 88 mission partners that are on this base. There is a lot of people to take care of, and we take each individual group seriously, and we want to provide the best support we can. So yeah, all my career it's always been about airmen. I've had to expand that, so that's a big change in my philosophy around here.
I think the greatest victory, there's probably a couple, but if I had to pick one, I would pick the civilian pay issue. We had a significant problem with civilian pay parity. In other words, some of our WG employees, these would be folks like carpenters, electricians, plumbers, those kind of folks that roll up their sleeves and get the work done every day. Different pay scales depending on where you worked on the base. So the Lakehurst side was receiving different pay than the McGuire side of the base. And so this has been ongoing for quite a while, and it took quite a bit of effort on our part to advocate, to explain the challenges that we have here on the Joint Base with civilian pay, up through the air staff, through our congressional delegation, and all of the congressional delegation, senators and congressmen and so forth from New Jersey came together on this and really advocated for it. And eventually we were able to score a victory for our civilians in that we now have equal pay no matter where you reside on the base. The problem was the dividing lines for different pay scales between Philadelphia and New York. But now it's equal pay. So I'm counting that as a pretty good victory.
Yeah, for me there's been many things that we can consider as a team victories on this base, but you know, I don't know if I necessarily look at them as victories just because that's our job to do this kind of stuff, but one of the things that I'm proudest of is the change that we've made in the Wounded Warrior program here on this base. So we recently discovered that we might have probably had a lapse in service, or we may not have been taking care of the Wounded Warriors as good as we could, the program. So we got together and we started working with the leaders of the program down in San Antonio, and once they learned of the problem and we dug in more on the program, on what the program should be doing as opposed to what it was doing, we expanded that program here on base. We've got somebody running that program now that has almost doubled the amount of Wounded Warriors recognized on this program so that we can better take care of them. For not only this program doesn't only cover wounded from downrange, but also, you know, other medical conditions. So we've got a lot more people in the scope now, and we are able to ensure that they're getting the care that they need.
Well, I'll tell you, Airman King, I would love to have another 2 years. This has been my favorite job by far in my 26 years in the United States Air Force. But as it is, don't get those 2 years. But if I had another 2 years, I would follow through on a couple of projects that we're making some progress on. So one of them is a challenge we have with County Road 539, military traffic mixed with civilian traffic, and we're looking at some engineering solutions to take care of that, so our military traffic can traverse that road a lot more safely than they can right now. There's quite a bit of support at the state level, at the county level, at the congressional level for this. I'm hoping that we realize a great solution there with regard to that, so that we can expand our training opportunities at the Joint Base, which leads into another thing that I would do over the course of the next 2 years if I was here, would be to expand our joint training opportunities here at the base. With our partners over in the Army Support Activity, we're really making some progress in bringing in some world-class types of training opportunities for multiple services, and that's something that I would pursue even further, is expanding our training capability here at the base.
So the last 2 years has definitely been busy and easily been my favorite job in the Air Force, working as Command Chief here. It's easy to look back now and say, man, I wish I would have got this accomplished or that accomplished, but if I did have those 2 years, I would focus a lot more on the interoperability that Col Thaden touched on there. We recently just had our Joint Base Service Member of the Year competition, and as we talked to each one of the service members that took place in that competition, and we asked them questions on what would they change about the Joint Base, and they all brought up that they would love to see a lot more interoperability on this base, a lot more chances to interact, because that's what we do when we go downrange. We're always deployed with the other services. So why are we not training more on a joint base? But we are going in that direction. We have been since we got here, but we want to do more and more. The more we do, the better.
Well, I would like them to remember that my entire focus of being the commander here at JBMDL was on mission accomplishment. But I understand that we don't accomplish the mission without people. So while we get our mission done, while we do the things that Chief and I have talked about, we have to remember that it's the people. It's the airman, it's the soldier, it's the sailor, it's the Marine, it's the Coast Guardsman, it's the civilian that are getting those jobs done for us. And their family members are important. So what I would like folks to remember is that while we accomplish the mission, let's not forget the folks that accomplish that mission for us. And let's not forget the community support that we receive here at JBMDL. There are a number of support organizations, a number of great Americans that want our missions here to succeed at JBMDL, and that's what I would like folks to remember about my time.
I want the airmen to remember that it's about them. What I do every day has always been about them, not about me. I look back at my career and I think of the importance of leadership and how it was to me as a young airman and the lapses I had. So I was always focused on making sure that airmen here on this base were getting the feedback that they were required to get, that they deserve to get, not only on a daily basis, but throughout their time here on this base. They need to have that feedback, and that's always been my focus here, and I think it should continue to be the focus no matter what base they go to. But it's all about the airmen. As Colonel mentioned, the mission gets done by the airmen. We're up here, we're kind of thinking mostly strategic level stuff, but the airmen are down there. They're down there and getting in dirty, turning those wrenches. We love what they do down there, and being it's a joint base, it's not just the airmen as well. So soldiers and those Marines and those sailors and Coast Guard on this base, love to get out seeing them do their jobs. Wish we could get out more, but we do have lots of meetings to go to as well.
I think a couple of things about JBMDL that make it successful is really its location. We have a prime location right here between Philly and New York, which has a lot of different types of traffic, industrial traffic, commercial traffic, so forth. And so the opportunities that are presented here to our service members are really pretty fantastic. Beyond that, the support of the people around the surrounding communities is very, very supportive of JBMDL, whether it be discounts at local stores or advocating on our behalf, or a new mission that is being considered to come in here, or anything that the Joint Base needs. Our local community leaders, our congressional delegation, all of them are very, very supportive of what we do here, which I think lends to the dynamic nature and to the success of this Joint Base. This is a fantastic Joint Base, the nation's only tri-service Joint Base, where the Army, Navy, and Air Force have agreed to support with people and with funding to make this thing happen. So we have a lot of support in DoD, but not only that, we have support of the community, and I just think that all those things combined make this a premier location for global mobility training and innovation.
Yeah, the diverse mission sets of all the services here and the capabilities of the ranges, not only here, but the areas over at Lakehurst as well, makes this a great base. And probably one of the other key things that I'd like to point out are we do have those other services, and what we learn from them is their different styles of leadership as well. What works for the Army works great for the Army. What works for the Air Force works great. But getting that interoperability and a chance to see how their leadership can help the Air Force as well, and how we can help them do their jobs as well. And then trying to get us to intermingle so we can learn from each other. That's one of those things, as I mentioned earlier, that we'd love to get together more so we can learn more about how we can make each other better.
So I'm headed to the Pentagon. I've not had a Pentagon assignment yet, so I've made it up to this level and not had a Pentagon assignment, which might be rare, but I'm headed to the A1 staff. I'll be the Director of Air Force Talent Management, and I'm looking forward to what that holds in store for me and for my family.
And for me, I retire in 38 days, and not counting because I'm looking forward to it. It's just that kind of dreading it, because it's all I've known for almost 30 years, and I know I'm going to miss it. Luckily, I have my wife, who's a chief as well, that I get to kind of hang on, but at the same time, I'm going to try to fade into the background as much as I can, and so it's about her and not about me anymore, because she's had enough of that for a few years. So I think she deserves that, and I'm looking forward to seeing her leadership step up.
My advice for leaders would be, it's all about the relationships at a joint base. Joint basing has a lot of documents that go along with it, the Joint Base Implementation Guidance, the Joint Base MOA that we have here locally. But if those relationships aren't intact, and if you don't foster the relationships, then joint basing falters. And so my advice to anyone who is being assigned to a joint base is to really get to know those folks that work with them on a day-to-day basis, get to know their equivalents across all the services, and really understand their requirements and their needs and what we need to do as an airbase wing to enable the missions of all of our mission partners. And relationships is where it's at.
100% relationships. I agree. I would love to say something different, but I gotta echo that because that is exactly what I have touched on with my replacement already. Not only the Joint Base, as Colonel Thaden mentioned, but we're also the host wing, and there are some tenant wings here, and that relationship is very important with those command chiefs and the tenant wings as well, and for that matter all the other mission partners on this base. We have to, as the 87th, make sure that every single mission partner feels like they're getting the same level of support as the 87th Air Base Wing is giving to themselves. And if there's a perception out there that it's not like that, then we're going to go out and make sure that that perception gets erased, because that is not how we operate here in the 87th, and that's how the my replacement plans on keeping it.
Well, first of all, as we conclude here, I'd like to thank Chief Poling for his 30 years of fantastic service to the country, to his Air Force, and to the nation. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Chief had the opportunity, he took it, and he served with honor and with distinction, and it's been my pleasure to serve right alongside him. So thanks, Chief, for all that you've done. I'd like to say thanks to the community. I've mentioned this a couple of times before, many times before. As I go out amongst our community representing the Joint Base, I'm just overwhelmed by the level of support that the men and women that surround JBMDL and in the entire state of New Jersey give to this base. They are very interested in what happens here, and interested for a good reason. They want this place to succeed. They want the military to succeed, and they want the nation to succeed, and they understand the role that this base has in that success. And finally, I would say that you know, one of General Goldfeins' priorities is developing joint airmen, and I would say what a better place to do that than at a joint base. As Chief has mentioned before, whenever we deploy joint. So let's take advantage of the opportunities that our joint bases have to offer. And that's not the only place where we develop joint airmen, but we are the lead in 6 of these joint bases being the Air Force, so let's take advantage of that.
So I always say that things happen for a reason. We don't always know what that reason is, but you know, my first duty assignment in the Air Force happened to be at the same duty location that Colonel Thaden had for his first duty assignment as well. So here we are, here I am 30 years later, and Colonel Thaden gave me the opportunity to be his command chief here and finish out my career in the 87th. So I can't thank Colonel Thaden enough for giving me that opportunity. Great example of a leader, not only an Air Force leader, but a joint base leader. He has done an outstanding job here. And as for the community, for some reason I say this at every base I've been to. I say that I've never been to a base where the community supports it better than, but this one takes cake. The community around here, they love the military. They love what we do, they love what we represent, and we love doing it for them. And we couldn't thank them enough for being there for us. And I agree, Joint Base always gets all kinds of maybe negative publicity, but I think it's a great opportunity for people to get that joint experience. And hopefully we'll keep expanding that experience here on this base so we can get even better prepare our service members to go downrange and deploy in the future.